Hello and welcome to the Recruiting Solutions Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, James Welch, the founder and CEO of Recruiting Solutions. And with me is my good friend and colleague, Stephen Sibley, retired Sergeant Major. Sonny, how are you today?
Good, man. How are you, James? I'm doing good over here. It's
Good.
nice and sunny down here, you know?
It is not nice and sunny here in Alabama. It is stormy and wet. So if you hear some thunder and some rain, I might have to duck out. We'll see how it goes. But
No doubt.
But yeah, I'm happy to be here with you, man. I appreciate you taking time out. And this is a really important topic for all the recruiters that are out there, regardless of the service or component, because the bottom line is this. We're at the end of spring, right? It's May. We're getting ready for summer. And typically what happens in the summer, a lot of recruiters will take a knee. And they do that for different reasons. Maybe they've been really successful and they're going to slow down, or maybe they just don't know what to do. But in either case, from what I've seen, is that when the recruiters slow down in their summer prospecting, not only does it impact them in the near term, it really is going to hurt them in the long term when we get into the fall. So that's what we're going to talk about. And let's get rolling. Sonny, you ready to go?
Yeah. Happy to be back, man. It's been a while. I appreciate the invite. Looks like a good topic. You know, I think the older I get and the more my I don't know what's going on. Maybe I just start forgetting things. I'm like, maybe I won't be the best, guest for you in the future because I'll probably forget a lot of this stuff. But no, man, I think it's a great topic. I'm happy to sit here and talk to you about it and shed some light on, some of this experience that we got and see if it helps somebody out there as usual. That's the goal. Just help somebody that's listening. And let's see where it takes us. But it looks good to me.
Yeah. Well, I know it'll help. It's like riding a bike for you. You get all that experience and expertise. So I know it'll be valuable to all the recruiters that are listening. But let's start off with this. When we talk about the summer prospecting, what do you think happens in the summer, and why do we have so many recruiters that tend to struggle during this time period? What's your take on that?
Jay, I will tell you, and I think that most people listening to this that know me will agree that I've always felt like, and even when I was a recruiter, right? But I always felt like it's going to slow down because of the school prospecting, right? Like whether you run a playbook like we did, or whether you're against it, you don't have a playbook. So you kind of just go out there and wing it every day. If you're running some type of offense out there where it's consistent that you're in the schools, daily, weekly, monthly, as soon as that door locks up for the summer, I think that a lot of recruiters are going to struggle because that's their norm, right? That's where they get their engagement from. That's where they get a lot of appointments from and things like that. And I think that it just slows down. And the fact that you're having this podcast right now to talk about it is right on that mark, because it's not too late. But the people that are out there right now should be thinking about, hey, what are we going to do when the schools shut down? And that doesn't mean like just sit in your office and find a plan. This means go out to those schools, get the list you need to find, go talk to the people you need to talk to, find out who's going to be there, who's the point of contacts for the schools when you need something for the school over the summer, like a registrar and, things like that. Now's the time to act before they lock the doors. But, before getting too deep, to answer your question, I think that it's because the doors lock up, man. I think that we're so used and so comfortable being in the schools and talking to kids that we know that that's going to stop real soon for the next few months. And so you're going to have a plan for sure.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Even the successful recruiters that have done well in the schools, they're consistently there. If they have not experienced a summer prospecting season, they can be ill prepared for that, right? Because it's one thing to do table setups, classroom presentations, and you're out there in front of the students every day. But when they're not there, you got to develop that plan. And when I was first in recruiting, we called this like the 90 days of summer, and then it became the 60 days of summer. But the bottom line is you've got to have a concerted effort throughout all those weeks of summer if you're going to be successful. And the other part of it is that I mentioned that the recruiters who are successful sometimes slow down, right? They want to take a knee. But the bottom line is you can never stop prospecting, right? Even if I understand slowing down the tempo a little bit, but you still have to continue to fill that pipeline, because if you don't, you're going to be zero. You may have a couple of contracts that are saved up for the next FY, but you're not going to have a lengthy pipeline to continually put contracts in when it comes September, October, November.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the plan, what I've always been taught, and I've seen successful recruiters do, is number one, it's a targeted effort, right? They're looking at groups of applicants or prospective applicants or individuals they know of, and they're targeting those people throughout the summer with a plan. It's not random. It's not just showing up and walking around Walmart or going to an event. You're actually going after individuals. And I think that's what differentiates a successful recruiter from one that's going to do more poorly. So in your mind, what is, when you think about a kind of a disciplined summer prospecting plan, what might that look like? Just kind of in a broad perspective.
So that's a good question, right? So, and I will reiterate about having a playbook in your organization. But when you run the playbook and you talk about daily prospecting, right? It's the efforts don't change, right? It's what you do consistently, routine, battle rhythm prospecting for your entire 3 years that you're here. And to be honest, with some minor distractions here or there that come along with the recruiting business, but in regards to prospecting, the plan shouldn't really change too much. But you got to look at the prospecting methods, right? Like going to a high school, going to a college, that's always going to be a face-to-face prospecting effort, period, right? And that's just the way it is. So you're going to have to replace that exact, that method with a different method. And unfortunately for people, the fastest way to try to get in contact with the same population is going to be through via text, telephone, social media, and other methods of prospecting that you're going to have to find a way to perfect, right? Because their students are still out there, right? The juniors are now seniors. They're still in the same addresses. They're still in the same community. You're going to have to figure out ways to reach out to them. So that goes back to what I said earlier about getting back to the schools now before the doors are locked and start obtaining any list that you may or may not have got yet. Get updated lists, find those dropout lists, who's not coming, who dropped out earlier this year. Look at things that you want to obtain as much material as you possibly can that's going to help you with that other prospecting method. That's just the bottom line, right? Face-to-face will be there in the streets, right? You're going to go to the malls, you're going to go to the streets, you're going to run events, you're going to do things that you're going to post, you're going to do all this normal daily prospecting and efforts that don't change except face-to-face and in the schools. So you got to change that method. So that's the biggest thing you're going to have to figure out is think now through this, especially commanders. Think through your plan. What is your prospecting going to look like a month and a half from now for the next 3 months after that? And then how are you going to replace face-to-face with? Is it going to be all text, all social media, all phones? I don't know, but that's for them to figure out. But you got to figure it out now, or what's going to happen? Doors are going to shut, and you're just going to have a blank space in your plan for each day and be like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I think I'm just going to sit here, or I'm going to go. You're just not because you suck. You're just going to be like, I don't know what to do because you don't have a plan. So you need to figure it out now. But I would tell you, just understanding that you're going to have to replace that prospecting type with something else right now. So,
yeah, and that's a great point for the leaders too, is that what I've seen successfully done from the brigade level on down is actually developing an op order with your sergeant major and then issuing that plan out to the team, right? You can offer some broad parameters. Hey, here's what you're going to target when, and then the details can be figured out by the subordinate level commanders and CS or first sergeants. But the number one, the thing my first sergeant taught me when I was a recruiting company commander during the summer is to target those folks who were juniors but are becoming seniors, right? So first to contact is the first to contract. So that's the group to start with, and then narrow that down further. Looking at those who have already taken the ASVAB and have the passing score, they've shown some proclivity for military service, or at least perhaps initial qualification. So focusing on those people. And what First Sergeant Smith taught me was it's not just about calling. In the summer, you've got to get out there and get in front of these kids' faces. So that means hot knocks. It means going to their house in the morning, right? Because kids are probably sleeping in. So in the afternoon, they're going to be out doing stuff, out playing ball, doing sports, whatever. So get there mid-morning, talk to them. If they're not there, you've got a door hanger, you've got a business card, you've got something. You've got to be able to do that. And if you don't have that plan and you're not in their face, one of the other services is probably going to be doing it. So anybody can call or text, but the guy and the girl who are in their face talking to them is probably going to be successful. At least that's what I learned. That's what I've seen. So that persistence is going to matter. So when you think about that, and being aggressive, what's your take, Sonny, on getting out and face to face with those potential applicants in the summer, and how aggressive should you be as a recruiter?
All right, I'm gonna give some free chicken, right? Like I always got to throw some free chicken out there. It doesn't mean it's the right way or the only way. It's just a way. And it's funny you said that because so I remember being a station commander out of Aurora, Colorado, right? It was like my third station I had ran when I was in back in the day of recruiting. And so what we would do is we would take and we would make PT, right? Because we're like, all right, school's out, kids are somewhere. We have everybody's addresses. We've face to face and we've shaped the market the whole year, right? So like we know our area. So what we would do is for PT is we would get together. Now this is a TTP for somebody out there looking for some other different prospecting effort, right? And you just get those little cards, right? And we would punch holes in all these cards and stick rubber bands in them so you can hang them on things, right? Essentially, for those that don't have the actual PPIs that are like door hangers, we make our own door hangers, right?
Yeah.
And what we would do is staple business cards and things to this and maybe put a flyer on there about college and the Army paying for college. Doesn't matter. Some type of information from the Army, or if it's just a business card, then that's what it is. However, what we would do is we would meet up at the station real early in the morning, about 5:30. Everybody would buckle up. The night before, we had loaded up backpacks full of all these items. And then we would get in our govs and we would all have an area sectored off, and that's where we're going to go. And your goal was to get out there. Everybody have 100. And your goal was to get into these apartment buildings and these places. And let's say in the morning, I had a big station. So I had about 15 recruiters in this one station. And what would happen is if 15 of us would go for 100, but if we all put out 50 flyers in the areas that we had, we just launched about 750 flyers onto somebody's door, right? So if 10% of those people were to call and say, hey, man, what was this about? And that's 75 people. It only took us an hour of prospecting in the morning for PT. And then we go eat breakfast together. And then we get ready and come back to work and get after it. But it's posting, right? So even though you're not actively telephone or text messaging, prospecting, you're actually going out there and you're posting your area. But you can do it really fast and you can do it once a week. And you'd be surprised that instead of going out knocking on every single door, go out there and put your information out there, and somebody's going to want to be, somebody will be interested, whether it's 1% or 10%. And I would tell people as a TTP, man, that's a good way in the summertime to utilize your time. You got parks, you got playgrounds, you got all these different places that you could pop up on and do this type of posting just to try to shape the area a little better during that time. So we would do stuff like that. And I would tell you, nobody's going to be a fan of hot knocking, especially in today's environment, but it is what it is. Go out there and buddy teams, do it. You got the address. But if you're going to be hot knocking, I would just tell you be very specific and very targeted, like you said earlier, about who you're going after. Maybe it's that list of ASVABs, the people that took the ASVAB or SASVAB, and that's who you hot knock. But to try to hot knock an entire, list or something, we know how that goes, right? So be very targeted with that, but also make the best of the time that you have during the day, right? Make sure you're not just sitting in your gov driving, you're going to hit 2 houses in 2 hours. I mean, that's just not very efficient, right? So that's why they talk about efficiency versus effectiveness. So,
yeah, no, that's a great point. And the other part of that is, you've got, a lot. Every recruiter's going to have a lot of potential applicants, right? And what I was taught is a good goal is that a recruiter should try to contact every one of the rising seniors before school starts. Try at least, right? So you're working your way through those school lists. You might be doing hot knocks for a particular select few that are as SASVAB qualified, but you're still trying to call all of the other folks to get that first to contract. You may not get there, but that's the goal you get to. And just because they haven't had an ASVAB doesn't mean they're going to be disqualified, right? They just haven't taken it yet. So you still want to contact all those folks, and you got to do it to scale, right? Like you said, you got to knock out a little bit every day. You're not going to be able to sit down and call an entire list in a week. You just can't do it. So you got to plan to work your way through your different schools, and then you got to be prepared to talk to the parents. I think this is another key point that a lot of recruiters miss. I know I did when I would make phone calls to my recruiters. I'll never forget the first time a parent picked up, and I didn't know what to really say. All right, so you got to work through that and think about talking to parents. So when you think about that, how do you work your way through a list? And then what do you do when you come into contact with parents?
Yeah, I think any form of prospecting that you do, every single station commander out there that knows and is good at their job knows that they've been teaching their recruiters all the way from the new recruiter program to have scripts, right? You got to have some type of script. You can blind call if you're good. Like if you're just a guy that can talk or a girl that can talk, like you can call and talk to anybody. Mom answers the phone, you're ready. Like, hey, mom, how you doing? But have a script. Have a targeted script ready that says, hey, man, this is what we're going to talk about. Like you can't be all over the place. Like when it comes to telephone calls or text messages. You got to be very upfront, very quick to tell what you're here for, what do you want, why are you calling me, and do the same thing with the parents. Just know, hey, whatever you're calling their son for or daughter, just be very specific and say, this is why I'm calling. But anyway, that goes back to the script. But I think that recruiters that go out there blindly and just like don't know, what they're going to say when they call, those are the ones that's going to trip up. But in regards to like how you get through the list, right? It's just math, right? Like when station commanders out there right now, they know the list, and then the company commanders, they know what their population looks like for each school, for each whatever. They have the junior list, the senior list, and the way you got to do it is don't, like you said, first the contact, first the contract, but don't wait. Go through right now and say, okay, if I got X high schools and X recruiters, how many people in each high school? And then narrow it down to give them goals. Give the recruiters goals that says, hey, listen, today, everybody's goal is to attempt to contact X amount of, or prospects. And then do that every single day repetitively until you get in touch with them. It may be, hey, you're going to get through this list this week, and then do it all over again next week with a different prospecting method. Maybe you did telephones. Now we're going to go to text. I don't know. But that's for them to decide. But you got to have a plan. And that goes back to simple, recruiting is easy. You just have to do it and you have to repeat it, right? Like you just have to have a plan of, hey, man, we got to go after this amount of people today from this high school and this population. So again, I've found that you go in some stations and sometimes some of these recruiters don't know exactly how to even funnel the list properly to what they want, right? So make sure that these recruiters are trained and ready for this, what we call the off season, because when schools shut down, you got to become lethal on them phones, lethal in social media, lethal on all of that, because face-to-face isn't going to be there like it was. So we could beat that to death, to be honest with you. But and not everybody wants to hear that because they're like, this is going to suck. Like I'm going to spend a lot of times on the phone, but not necessarily. Get your goal from your leadership. What do you need me to do today? And execute it to the fullest, the best you can. And then, you did your job.
That's right. And that's always a point I try to remind all recruiters is that it's highly unlikely that someone's going to say yes the first time you contact them or you're in their face, right? There's different statistics that show, but usually it's upwards of 20 or more times before someone has heard your message, either through a phone call, either through a text, a billboard, commercial. It may be 20 or 30 times before they say, yeah, I want to commit. So starting early just gives you more opportunity later in the year to get them to that commitment level, right? But studying another population that I think is overlooked, but probably is one of the ones that is most vital to a recruiter, is identifying those people, not the ones who just graduated, but the ones who graduated a year ago. Yeah. Right. And there's the reason for that is that, a lot of kids, they graduate and they get all these grandiose plans. They're going to go to college. They got a great job, whatever they're going to do. But a lot of times those don't pan out. So we know about 30% of college freshmen don't make it through the first semester. Yeah, they're done. Right. So you've got that population that are kind of, maybe they're back home in the summer trying to figure out what they're going to do. Then you got a lot who thought they had a high paying job doing something, whatever it might be. Maybe it's working at the paper mill or doing something else. And then that job fizzles through, or they decide, I don't like this anymore. I got to find another path. So that to me is a group that you can really get after as a recruiter, in addition to the rising seniors. But if you planted that seed in high school and they kind of know a little bit about the Army, and now you're following up a year later after they graduated, touching base with them. Yeah. It seems to me oftentimes you're going to find one that's like, hey, you know what? I am interested. Things haven't worked out the way I planned. I want to hear what the Army has to offer me from my passions and my goals in life. So talk to me about that. What do you think about that? And then, why do you think so many recruiters tend to overlook that particular segment of the population?
Well, one, because that's typically where your walk-in market comes from, right? Like the ones that dropped out of high school, the people that you were talking to a year or 2 years ago that have went off to college, or like you said, every scenario you use, that you hope that you created an environment in the schools that you were in the area that you're in your zip codes, that people know you. Right. So that the people know where to come, know where to call. This is why having people have assigned zip codes and having a daily routine of posting every single day and getting into your area to shape the market, as that's not a direct prospecting effort, but shaping your market through posting and events and things like that. Right. It's so important because now, even if you just started right now, it's going to be so important for next year, because the population that you're talking about, are the ones that's going to come back to you because they know who you are. That's number one. Number two is going back to what is your role and responsibility as a recruiter every day? All right, I've laid out my plan for the summer. The college list, I got my zip code. My high school list, I got that one. But when that runs dry, oh, by the way, I can go back into my system and I can check for seniors that graduated the year before. All you're doing right now, James, is just giving them some free chicken. Like, hey, man, you might want to go ahead and pull that list too for your zip code, because that's a population that we forget about. And if they don't walk in, we completely forget about them. So go back and look at those. That's just a TTP that you learn by being great brigade commander in all your years in recruiting. Is like, hey, go back. And you're telling commanders right now, like, if you don't have this in your brain, now you do. Go pull those lists and start building the SOP or the summer prospecting plan and put that in there, because if they don't walk in, how are you going to get after them? Hot knocks, social media, all these different things. But that's just a whole nother list that you can use and refine to try to get what you're looking for, right? To try to get that one person, yeah, man, I'll come see you right now, because every one of them matters, right? So, and I think you're putting out a good point right there, talking about that 30% potentially that have dropped out, that they don't know what they're going to do now. I think you need to find out what their goals and passions are and explain to them exactly how the Army can get them exactly what they want to meet their goals and passions for every single one of them.
Absolutely. And Sonny, you made a great point about shaping the walk-in market. I was always taught that the walk-ins are either one or two things. You either have those ones that you shape yourselves that are probably pretty good applicants, and you have the ones that are running from something or are broken. So if you don't shape the market, you get the ones that are probably broken, may not be that good. But if you shape it correctly, hey, that just helps you bring in some potentially quality applicants. So that's a great point that commanders and recruiters need to keep in mind. And it's so important to do that every day and continue to shape it. But one other thing that I've seen recruiters do really well in the summer, particularly it tends to be the more athletic ones, but anybody can do it, is leveraging summer athletic programs. Mm-hmm. Now, this goes back to what you said, is before the doors close now, get in there and talk to the coaches. Nowadays, just about every sport has some sort of summer workout or summer practice schedule, every single one of them. Mm-hmm. So if they talk to the coaches now, they've developed some rapport, they have a relationship, and then talk about, hey, how can I help out, coach? Can I come out there? Maybe some schools allow them to work out with them, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen some schools adopt the recruiter, and that recruiter becomes an assistant coach, right? I've seen it for football, I've seen it for basketball, I've seen it for baseball. But you don't have to go that far. Just by being at the practice, maybe having water or whatever it might be, you have a presence. The athletes begin to see you, the coaches see you, and you don't have to have a hard sell at that time. You're shaping the environment so that when it does come time for the school year, you're a trusted entity. So I think that's another area where it's going to take maybe a couple hours a week. But if you can get in there in some of those practices and make yourself known with the coaches and athletes, that can pay some big dividends. So what do you think about that? Have you had some experience in betting with athletic programs? Have you seen recruiters do this effectively?
Yeah, 100%. And I've seen from when I was young, Sergeant E5 recruiter, right? In the same, and hitting those same high schools to when I was a CSM before I retired. And I saw some of my best recruiters were like you said, they were coaches, they were all this stuff. Doesn't mean you have to be. I would challenge everybody that may be listening to this or may hear about this podcast right now to look at their books and say, okay, where am I plan every single day? Because, you can go look at your plans, your recruiters' plans. Like, where do we have the shaping piece at, right? So part of the Richmond Battalion playbook when I was there back in the day, right, was, whether people loved it or hated it, was that we will have a time frame. Every single day was marked out for, listen, if you telephone call from this time, 22 calls an hour, blah, 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 right? If you face-to-face for this time, we have 8 hours minimum in a day, right? You could get all of this done easily by 1600 every day. But we always had marked off time in there for the same recruiters on the same days and the same zip codes to continuously post. And I would give training to these guys myself of like, hey, this is how you mark off your territory. You start on this road, and then tomorrow you do this one, and vice versa. But to the commanders out there and to the, first sergeants out there, what's y'all's plan every single day for some type of posting activity? Because at the end of the day, phone calls, text messages, Facebook is never going to be enough. It's just not. You have got to create the walk-in market. And it doesn't just happen because somebody Googles Army recruiting, I promise you, right? You have got to, because nowadays you'll Google Army recruiting for your area and the recruiter from, 2 battalions over will get your applicant because they're smarter than you on Google, right? Whatever. But right now, like, what is the commanders and first officers? What are y'all's plan right now? And I used to harp on this and it used to drive them crazy, but the most effective recruiters just stuck to the script. They had their posting times, their prospecting times, their school visit times. Now that you got to X out the school visit time, that's even more to either add more prospecting activities, more posting activities, or find yourself something to do like you're saying right now. Spend the time that you would have been in a school, like at some type of sporting activity or something where you can lend, your brains and your muscle to your local schools, because it's going to pay off in the long run. And like you said, you hit it earlier. Don't go out there looking for an appointment or conduct. That's not the time for that. If it happens, it happens. That time has to be specified and marked off that you are going to give back to your community doing something, because your image is enough to be recruiting without you having to hand out business cards. So, it's just to the commanders and first arms. Is there a plan? Is there a playbook in place, or do we just show up and go after it? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, again, what I've heard before from other people, from many other NCOs, to include Command Sergeant Major Brown, was applicants want to be like the recruiter, right? So if you happen to be an athletic guy or girl, and you're at practice, you look good, you know what you're talking about, you don't have to sell it, right? Those kids are naturally going to gravitate towards you because of your presence. So something to consider.
Yep.
Now, the other thing that I've seen happen in the summer, Sonny, and this is a double-edged sword. There are lots of different summer events that take place in different communities, right? Of course, you got stuff like the 4th of July. You got Memorial Day events that start early in the summer. And more often than not, recruiters get asked to come out there, maybe present the colors, participate. That's fine and well. Those are, good things to do for the community, if you have the time. Right. But then there's other things like sports camps or leadership camps. Some of those I think can be pretty good. The double-edged sword that I'm speaking of is that sometimes you'll have an event and maybe it's like a region-wide or a statewide effort. So a recruiter goes there thinking they're going to find people from their high school or their local community. And it might be seniors from elsewhere in the state. Other times there are ones that are more localized, right? Where you're getting like the cream of the crop for that local town or that local area coming together for a sports program or maybe an academic program, something like that. And I think those can be very, very valuable, right? Again, just like you said, it's not about going there to do a hard sell, but it's somehow if you can contribute meaningfully. For example, if it's a leadership event, hey, you're going to go there and talk about your leadership experience from the Army, right? Yeah. If it's an athletic camp, maybe you can get some Army branded water bottles and just hand those out, right? Didn't take a whole lot of time to do it. Your business card's inside the water bottle, so you don't have to sell it. It's just in there. Mm-hmm. That sort of stuff I think can be powerful. So what do you have to say about those events? Are those a good thing to do, bad thing, or is it kind of a mix of both?
I'm always going to say it's a good thing, depending, right? Like, so I'll tell you what differentiates it for the most part is the money. Is it a cost event for the Army? Is it not a cost event, right? So that's typically what defines for me, is it a good event versus a bad event? Because if a recruiter's getting paid regardless. So if a recruiter shows up to an event that costs the Army nothing and hands out one business card, okay, you showed face, they saw you, they might not have talked to you. You did hand out one business card, because at the end of the day, and I will stand on this business the rest of my life, and anybody that asks me about recruiting, is 8 hours in a day is a long day of Army recruiting. And I always say that, which is why we had the playbook. I'm like, dude, this is 8 hours of your day marked out. And that's after PT, to where like all you really need to do is do some prospecting, do some of this, do some of that, and then close out your day. But somehow we drag these days out. And I'm not talking about the days where people go to MEPS and do all that. That's different. I'm talking about a normal recruiting day for a normal brand new NCO that's just trying to prospect. So why not do events? why not get out the dang office and go do something else with your life, right? Besides sit in your gov and drive to this house or that house. So now's the time. It goes back to the point that like, hey, summer's coming and everybody just come up with a plan. You can find out what events are going on like this. It ain't like it used to be. It was hard. Now, you know everything going on in your community. They got all these calendars and all these social media posts of what's coming up. Find things to do to get you outside, and also try to find things to do that don't cost money. Because when it don't cost money, recruiters, nobody's sweating you, nobody's stressing you, right? Oh, we just spent thousands of dollars on this and you didn't do anything. Man, just go out there and be present in your community. And I think it will, again, shape that walk-in market, also give you some return on investment right away. When you do find that one person that's interested and glad to see you, just do stuff. Hey, just do stuff, whatever that looks like.
That's
right?
the motto there.
Yeah, just do things, man. Just like get up and do things and be creative. And for the leaders out there, listen to the recruiters. Give them the latitude to say, hey, listen, it's your zip code, it's your area. I don't go out there every day. What's going on? What do you want to do? All right, Sarge, this is what I want to do. All right, let's put that in your plan so we know what's coming up and do stuff. I have found, and this is not true for everybody, but I have in my career, I've seen enough of, we just kind of show up and just kind of wing it, man, sometimes because we just like, we're sick of it. We're tired of it. The redundancy makes us tired or angry or whatever. It's like, find ways to make this as enjoyable as possible while you're here, because it's going to be a long 3 years if you don't. And the most fun I ever had in recruiting was almost when I was a brand new recruiter, because I just had free reign to just do what I wanted to do and do stuff. I just had to put people in the Army. So I would just find creative ways to put people in the Army, and then it just worked out. So, and I think everybody, if I can do it, I think anybody can do it. So just do stuff, man.
That's my new motto. Just do stuff.
I'm gonna get a t-shirt, man. Just do stuff.
Hey, so this is the other thing I wanted to touch on is, I've harped on this a lot throughout my recruiting career, was the importance of having a relationship with college campuses. And I have noticed a lot of recruiters tend to shy away from college campuses on the active duty side. National Guard tends to do very, very well because they embed themselves there on the campus. And I experienced that myself when I taught Army ROTC at a university in Arkansas. I offered office space to both active duty recruiters and to the National Guard. And guess who took me up on it? The National Guard. Yeah. They were there all the time. But I say that to say is that summer is a good opportunity to go to the college campuses. There may be some students there, but it's really to build relationships with the staff, because things are a little bit slower for them. It's a good time to go in there, introduce yourself, start that milk run now. And there's different people to talk to, right? You've got career services. Those are the people that can talk to students on your behalf, either about part-time employment in the Guard Reserves or full-time employment on active duty when they graduate, right? So we can be an arm, help the university employ these students and keep them in school if we play that card right. The other ones are like, financial aid, talking to them about what we have to offer, so that when students come in and don't have money for school, they can say, hey, have you thought about the Army Reserves, right? Have you thought about the Guard? Again, they're acting on our behalf because we've informed them. And I've had recruiters do this in the past, where they work with their chain of command and set up a luncheon or a breakfast for the financial aid people and just talk to them. Hey, here's some Chick-fil-A. I want to walk you through what we have to offer students who may enlist in the Army Reserves, right? So you've got them. You've got the VA reps on campus. Another really great people to know, because we do have a lot of veterans who have completed their service obligation who are now in school, but we also have a lot of children of veterans who are in school, those kids are more likely to join the military. So why not get in front of the VA rep so they know who you are? So when a kid asks about joining or enlisting, they can refer that kid to you. So I say all those different people are really important. And of course, probably the biggest one, regardless of service, is if your branch of service has an ROTC presence on a campus, go there, develop that rapport and that relationship with them, right? Some of the active duty folks may be gone for the summer doing training or what have you, but they always have civilians that work in the building. And that summertime is a really slow time for them. So just going in and getting to know the secretary, get to know their HR person, and make that part of your milk run. Again, you're developing that relationship with the people behind the scenes who can speak on your behalf to students, to cadets, and to the cadre. So I think those are just, again, we're not talking about contracts, but we're talking about a shaping effort that you do now, and then that will mature and result in contracts down the road. So what do you think about that in terms of college? Is it worthwhile to be on the college campus, and who else should they talk to if they're there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, I think you hit everybody that's there that that matter, especially being the, I mean, big things are the registrars and people like that that have access to records that you're going to need, right? Like especially over the summer. We talked about that earlier in the pod, but the like you got to have these relationships, and so what better time than, like you said, when the school is slow. So I know there's somebody that might be listening to this, and I promise you we're not trying to make this sound like it's the easiest job in the world and you should be really good at it. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to throw out some TTPs for you guys to understand that, like, hey, summer's coming, and if you might not be thinking about this, and some of your leaders might not be thinking about this. So at the end of the day, like what James just stated, like, I don't go get a directory, go on the college website, get the directory of who's there, point out who you may want to talk to, like that person may be able to, and just go meet them. Also find out who's the veterans on those campuses. If you can figure that out, that's the thing that I used to try to do, is like figure out like, hey, who here that works here is a veteran? And I don't care what branch you are. I mean, one of my closest COIs when I was young was an Air Force veteran. He sent everybody to the Army, right? Like it was just something about mine and his relationship. So just find somebody that, like, find the veterans that actually are on the campus, so that when not just over the summer, so that when the school year comes and you need to access something, you have a brother or sister in arms over there that will probably gladly help you, as long as you're willing to help them if they need help. So just, you hit everybody I need to talk to. College recruiting is going to be, I don't know why people are scared of colleges. Maybe because of the campuses, or they feel like they got to have a degree to even step foot on there. And that's not true, right? Just go out there and do your job, but just have a plan when you get out there. But I don't think I can add anything to the group of people they need to talk to, but I will say they need these contacts before the summer, because things are going to come up and you're going to need to get into that college for something. Some kid's going to walk in and you're going to need his transcripts or her transcripts for something, and you're not going to have access to them online because they don't know their username and password. You're going to need to go get that from the registrar. So at least link up with that person for sure.
Yeah, great points all. And, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We're just offering some TTP so you can put together that plan. Particularly for the leaders, so your guys aren't there twiddling their thumbs in the station wondering what to do during the summer. But the biggest point of that is that not only are you potentially prospecting and finding some contracts for the summer, is that when you think about the flash to bang that exists now in military recruiting, it's pretty lengthy. So kids that you talk to in the middle of the summer, they may not be able to even enlist until later on in the fall. So you've got to build that funnel now throughout the summer. And this is the biggest mistake that I saw recruiters and leaders do. I'll give a quick war story for everyone's benefit. As a battalion commander, I had a company that was the number one company in the entire 2nd Brigade. Small company, but outperformed companies twice their size. Well, that company commander, first sergeant, switched out. They were a phenomenal team. We get a new company commander, first sergeant. Well, we notice the performance of this company starts slowing down a little bit. Well, that's not unusual. That happens from time to time, and you get new leadership in. But it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse in the summer, till they weren't putting anyone in. And finally, I had one of the more seasoned recruiters, as he was out processing, share with me. He said, "Hey, sir, you know what's happening in our company, right?" I said, "No, I don't know. What's happening?" He said, "Sir, our first sergeant has told us to stop prospecting, that this is the time we're already close to making our mission, that we can just relax, and we should work half-day schedules. So guys aren't doing anything." So I confronted the company command team, and sure enough, they said, "Oh yeah, well, our guys worked hard all year. Now it's time for a break." It was so bad, Sonny, that applicants that were trying to join the Army through that company were going to other companies in the state to enlist because they couldn't get these people to put them in the Army. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, guess what? It came down to the last week of the fiscal year. They almost missed making their mission because they slowed down so badly. Now, not only did it hurt them for that fiscal year, guess what? For the beginning of the next FY in October and November, they didn't have anything in their funnel to put in the Army. And I think that's the biggest cause for concern is that not only are you, hurting yourself for those last few months of the FY or last few weeks, you're going to have nothing in your funnel. So you may have some applicants that you set aside, they're going to enlist that first couple of weeks of the FY, new FY, but then you have nothing.
Yeah.
And you're starting over from scratch. So I tell that cautionary tale that leaders know is that you cannot stop. Yes, the tempo may slow a bit. That's understandable. People go on vacations with their families, those sorts of things. But if you tell them to stop or you allow them to stop altogether, you are doing them a big disservice because now not only are they going to hurt on the production side, they're going to have to work twice as hard when school starts to catch back up with everyone else. So what are your thoughts on that? Have you seen that before? And is that a cause for concern for leaders and recruiters?
100%. I mean, at the end of the day, like I want to sit here and be like, no, I've never seen that because we never slow down. All gas, no brakes, right? Yeah. Let's be honest. I mean, there's going to be times everybody wants to take a knee, and I will tell you that the bottom line is like, what are you going to do? I just told you I'll do stuff, right? What are you going to do if you don't prospect? That's what I understand about recruiting, right? Like it's one thing that I never got through my head, and it was just always stayed with me because I was just from recruiter to CSM and everything in between. I'm like, you always have to prospect. Like you just do. This is what you get paid to do. So what I used to try to really, really, really not beat in their head, but instill into my soldiers was, listen, man, this is what you get paid to do. And I used to I'd have so many meetings with so many leaders and be like, let me tell y'all something. A recruiter's job is to go out there and make appointments, right? Prospect and make and conduct appointments. And then from the time they conduct the appointment, station commanders, your job is to get them to the test line. First sergeant, your job is to take them from test to floor and get them in the Army. And it was always like that. Well, the reason I used to do this, and it goes back to the playbook, but the reason I used to make this very clear, I would sit in front of my recruiters and tell them, all 300 of them, and say, let me tell y'all something. This is what y'all are paid to do, and try to make them understand that the more I repeat this and say, hey, this is what we're paying you for, the more they would start to understand and grasp that, like, why am I getting distracted with all these other things? If I could just understand that this is my role, this is my responsibility for 3 years, maybe I'll just try to get really good at that. And that's what I used to want them to do. I'm like, yeah, you might have to build a packet. Yeah, got it, right? They teach you that at the ARC, right? You got to learn how to build packets and drive the MEPs. But get really good at prospecting because there is no days off out here. Like there's not. You're going to build into your plan and you're going to have a funnel built, if you're lucky, to take those vacations with your family or by yourself. And you're going to have this built into your plan to take a knee at Christmas if they do, Christmas leave and all that stuff. And that's fine. Take a break when they let you take a break. But if you're not on leave, like the Army, then you're working. And when you're working, I need you to be really good at what you're doing. When we try to make the recruiters that just come out here from, jumping out of airplanes and shit, right? When we try to take these recruiters and make them good at every single facet of recruiting, that's not what we're here for, right? Like you got to be really good at your job. Go out there and prospect. I need you to make appointments, prepare for appointments, and conduct the appointments. And then we'll take it from there, right? So I don't know. Things are different now. Like we went from 79 Romeos, there's these new MOSs and all this stuff going on. And I won't even get into that, but I will tell you that that's the way things used to be, right? Is that get really good at prospecting because that's what I'm going to reward you for. Because your hard work is what's going to make our mission. Station commanders, first sergeant, we're just there to facilitate the process. It's the recruiter's hard work that's going to make or break any single company out there. So get really good at your job, and I think we'll be okay. So yeah, no days off out here. No days off, no days off out there, not in here no more. You know what I mean? Right. Lots of days off here, but no days off out there. But it's you'll get there too. But like, have fun with it, be good at it, and I think I think y'all will be fine.
Yeah, and we'll end on that because I think you're right. The mindset means everything, right? That's what differentiates an average recruiter, a mediocre recruiter, from one who excels and always makes their mission, right? It's the mindset. And some of the notes I was taking as you were talking are, you got to have a plan, number one, first and foremost. And leaders need to help them develop that plan, giving them the template for success. Then you have to execute daily. You've got to have that plan and you got to do it. And then stay consistent, right? You've got to stay consistent throughout the year. We don't know what's on the horizon. And you think back to our time in recruiting, we saw wars, right? We had COVID. No one foresaw that coming, right? And even then, those recruiters and those units who had a pretty substantial funnel, they had some degree of success those months into COVID because they still had people that wanted to join. The ones who didn't, boy, they were really hurting, right? So we don't know what the horizon is on the horizon for recruiters. And think about this, for the recruiters out there who are successful, I'm really happy for you. But you know what's going to happen soon is that military instinct is going to rise. And with it, your mission will rise too. So if you're not putting in the work ethic, you don't have a plan, and you're not being consistent, you're going to pay a price. Okay, it's going to happen. Believe me. So, Sonny, what would you offer them? Anybody listening? Last piece of advice for recruiters and leaders.
Man, listen, I'm getting old. I may have said this before, but it's always been my thing, right? Like I always had a motto, which was always like, don't owe nobody nothing, right? But I use a different word, right? Don't owe nobody anything. Just go out there and do your job, right? So anybody watching this or hearing this that knows me will 100% validate. Like, one, I'm always going to be honest with you, but I've always had this mindset of like, I would say it out loud, and I don't think some leaders liked it, but I would say it out loud. Like, I don't really care if you make mission. I just need you to work hard. Let me validate that you work hard and be like, hey man, it just didn't work out, right? So for anybody out there like, oh, we know, look, sometimes the numbers are made up and the score don't matter, right? What matters is work ethic, plans, execution, and getting to the end state, right? Which is like, hey, I did my job today, this week, this month, right? And if you constantly come in and do that and give 100% every single day, do what you're supposed to do and be good at it, like that's all I would ask for. All the way down to when I was hired as a CSM, I was like, listen, every first sergeant, especially my commanders knew, because I talked to them a lot too. Look, you're not always going to make mission, but did you work hard or did you not work hard? And you won't know if you worked hard if you don't have a plan to validate that was executed. So that's why it all comes together. It's very simple out here, right? It's not hard. We make this shit hard sometimes, but at the end of the day, come to work, do your job. It's going to work out sometimes, and sometimes it's not. And that's just the way it's, and that's always been my mind. I got guys out there that are like, oh, it's mission or die. And I get it, right? I get it. But did you work hard or did you not? And so that's all I care about. So go out there and do stuff. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Yeah. Right. Thanks, Sonny. I appreciate it. Always, as always, I greatly value your expertise and experience. And anyone listening out there knows, this guy knows what he's talking about. But for those who are listening and who would like to follow up with you, can they get in touch with you via your website or any other way?
Yeah, man. I mean, my number ain't changed I'm 46. My number ain't changed in a long time. I mean, at least 30 years. So I'll tell you, you probably already have my number. Number one. Number two, you get me on LinkedIn, right? Obviously, Sibley Group website. You can check that out too. But at the end of the day, man, like I'd rather you just DM me. I get calls all the time, especially from 2nd Brigade, and guys just want to talk about stuff about recruiting or just about life or even about transition. Like I'm getting really good at talking to people about transitioning out the military. And I will tell you that I'm always available all the time. And my number hasn't changed. Just don't send me stupid memes. And I don't always like, the weird stuff that comes across, but I'm here for you. So just give me a call, man, if you need me for sure.
Yeah, I know you will be. You certainly have been there for me and I appreciate it. Well, folks, hey, that's the end of our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you or your unit are looking for some additional training or consulting, you can contact me, James Welch, on LinkedIn. You can also visit our website, recruitingsolutionsllc.com. That's recruitingsolutionsllc.com. And finally, you can check out my book, The Art of Military Recruiting, Lessons Learned from the Recruiting Battlefield. That's available on Amazon. If you are new to recruiting or you're figuring this out, get that book, all right? This is a shameless plug, but it walks you step by step on how to be successful, and it covers some of the topics that we talked about on today's podcast. Again, thank you, Sonny. Appreciate your time. And for all the recruiters out there, I wish you much success and little stress. James, watch out.
Cool.